everybody. Today we're going to talk about Sybil. Was Sybil a hoax, or was it a conspiracy? See you in a minute. Hi, this is Simon, and I'm here to talk about the biggest case of dissociative identity disorder since the 70s, Sybil. As everybody knows, Sybil was a fraud, or was she? Sybil's actual name, and forgive us, we're reading off of the Wikipedia because we can't remember anything. Sybil's actual name was Shirley Mason, and she was born in 1923 and she died in 1998. She had dissociative identity disorder. The only reason it's contested is because she also suffered from denial and fear. So let's discuss it. Why denial and fear? So she started seeing a doctor, and that doctor's name was Dr. Wilbur, Cornelia B. Wilbur, who was a Freudian psychoanalyst. And she started seeing her because she had blackouts, lost time, and strange behaviors that she couldn't explain. You know, obviously she was trying to live a life, and it's a little bit difficult to live a life when you have DID and you don't know it. So why is Sybil a controversy? Why would she say that she did not have dissociative identity disorder? I can tell you exactly why. When a system is threatened, it hides. DID is generally a covert disorder. Even in me, it's covert. I'm an overt system. That just means that my alters are very different from me. They have different voices, different names, different ages. They act differently. Their communication with the body is external. It's externalized. Whereas covert systems, their communication is internalized. Obviously, Shirley Mason's system was an overt system. But if an overt or covert system is threatened, or in a situation in which they do not trust a person, they will hide. They will deny they have the disorder. That's very common in DID. So let's read why Sybil was why Sybil is a controversy. I'm gonna read this and I'm gonna comment as we go. Okay, Mason's diagnosis had been challenged, okay? Mason is Sybil, remember that. A psychiatrist, and now listen to this, I'll explain this all to you very clearly. Psychiatrist Herbert Spiegel saw Mason for several sessions while Wilbur was on vacation and felt that Wilbur was manipulating Mason into behaving as though she had multiple personalities when she did not. First of all, if you see a DID patient for several sessions, you're not going to see DID. They will be hiding. They will be protecting themselves. They have to get to know you, and they have to absolutely trust you to show you their parts. We may show our parts online, but that's only because we're filming at home. If you met us in real life, we would be a lot more cohesive, and you probably wouldn't see much unless you knew us very well. Because alters hide. Alters mimic the host in dangerous situations. Remember, this is a protective disorder. It protects us. It's a defense mechanism because we had to defend against some severe attacks in our lives. So yes, seeing someone for several sessions, no. Yes, you're not gonna see DID when you do that. Thank you very much. So Spiegel suspected Wilbur of having publicized Mason's case for financial gain. Now, I'm not saying that's not possible, but you'll hear the rest. There can be two truths at once. Mason can have DID, and Dr. Wilbur can be doing this for money. According to Spiegel, Wilbur's client was a hysteric. That's what they loved to diagnose people with DID back in the day, as a hysteric. They diagnosed Anne Sexton that way, even though she probably had DID too. So Wilbur's client was a hysteric, but did not show signs of multiple personalities. In fact, he later stated that Mason denied to him that she was multiple. Of course she would deny that to him. She was protecting herself from him and his disbelief. You don't think people with DID are going to hide when they don't think people believe them? Of course they will. That is not a safe environment to be honest in. He later stated that Mason denied to him that she was multiple, but claimed that Wilbur wanted her to exhibit other personalities. People with DID also suffer from denial, and people with DID who they have alters sometimes that don't know they have DID. And sometimes your denial can overtake you, and you'll say, no, I don't have DID. I was in denial for 15 years. I was told by doctor after doctor I had dissociative identity disorder. And I was like, no, I'm not Sybil. Ironically, that was always my answer. Spiegel confronted Wilbur, who responded that the publisher would not publish the book unless it was what she said it was. Now, we're not sure that actually happened because, as you'll find out, Spiegel was kind of a liar. So this is Wikipedia. So I'm just going by Wikipedia. Spiegel revealed that he possessed audio tapes in which Wilbur tells Mason about some of the other personalities she has already seen in prior sessions. Spiegel believes these tapes are the smoking gun, proving that Wilbur induced her client to believe she was multiple. First of all, iatrogenic DID does not exist. Iatrogenic DID does not exist. Can people fake DID? Not for very long. But you can have patients that try to behave like they have DID because their therapist maybe introduced the concept to them. Do those people actually have it? No. And they won't be able to keep up the act very long because there are a lot of threads in a system. And if you're not being honest, I can't imagine how you would hold on to all this information and not, And so, iatrogenic DID doesn't exist for all the doctors out there questioning that. Okay, so the smoking gun, right? Spiegel made these claims 24 years later, of course, after Schreiber, Wilbur, and Mason and all died, so nobody can confirm whether that conversation ever happened. And he was finally asked about the topic. In August of 1998, psychologist Robert Reber, so now there's Spiegel and Reber, okay, of John Jay College of Criminal Justice stated that the tapes belonged to him and that Wilbur had given them to him decades earlier. He cited the tapes to challenge Mason's diagnosis. Reber had never interviewed or treated Mason, but asserted that she was an extremely suggestible, hysteric, interesting, and quite unethical to diagnose a patient you've never seen. Interesting. People think they can get away with this simply because they're dealing with DID. I can tell you now, people with DID are not going to accept this anymore. We are going to fight for our medical rights. He cited the tape. Okay, so here we go. An extremely suggestible hysteric. He claimed Wilbur had manipulated Mason in order to secure a book deal. Okay, let's see. In a review of Reber's book, psychiatrist Mark Lawrence asserts that Reber repeatedly distorted the evidence and left out a number of important facts about Mason's case to advance his case against the validity of the diagnosis. Doctors have been attacking this diagnosis from the beginning. Even though it's in all over the world, people have suffered from it, not just in the Western world. All over the world, people suffer from this. And it takes different forms, it depends on the cultural society. Some people see it as possession, okay? So it may be named something else, but it's the same disorder. Debbi Nathan's Sybil Exposed. Now, this was mainly the book that brought everything into contention. Sybil Exposed by Debbi Nathan. So she draws upon an archive of Schreiber's papers stored at John Jay College of Criminal Justice and other first-hand sources. Nathan claims that Wilbur, Mason, and Schreiber knowingly perpetrated a fraud and describes the purported manipulation of Wilbur by Mason and vice versa, and that the case created an industry of repressed memory. Now, it did do that. It did create an industry of repressed memory. Nathan hypothesizes that Mason's physical and sensory issues may have been due to untreated pernicious anemia, the symptoms of which were mistaken at the time for psychogenic issues. She notes that after Mason was treated with calf's liver supplements for chronic blood disorders as a child and young woman, her psychological symptoms likewise went into remission for years at a time. DID it can go, I don't know what to call it. It can go into dormancy depending on what kind of system you are. For years, it can do that. It depends on your life's circumstances, whether you are suffering any current stressors. It does not mean a thing. Her psychological symptoms likewise went through, for years at a time, and that Wilbur herself noted that Sybil suffered from pernicious anemia later in life. Nathan's writing and her research methods have been publicly criticized by Mason's family and Dr. Patrick Serassi, who was personally acquainted with Shirley Mason. In addition, Serassi claims that Spiegel behaved unethically in withholding tapes which supposedly proved Wilbur had induced Mason to believe she had multiple personalities. Spiegel also claimed to have made films of himself hypnotizing Mason, supposedly proving that Wilbur had implanted false memories in her mind. But when Serassi asked to see the films, Spiegel said he had lost them conveniently. He had lost them. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I can imagine a doctor seeing an extremely famous patient would absolutely just forget about very important tapes that he could write a book from, and he would just lose them. Makes no sense. The tapes obviously never exist. That's allegedly, I'm saying it. Although Wilbur's papers were destroyed, copies and excerpts within Flora Retta Schreiber's papers at the Lloyd Seeley Library of John Jay College were unsealed in 1998. In 2013, Nancy Preston published After Sybil, a personal memoir, which includes facsimile reproductions of Mason's personal letters to her, along with color plates of her paintings. According to Preston, Mason taught art at Ohio's Rio Grande College, where Preston was a student. Rio Grande. The two became close friends and corresponded until a few days before Mason's death. In the letters, Mason claimed that she had multiple personalities. DID, like I said, is a protective mechanism. If you have people doubting you, masses of people doubting you, the first thing a typical system would do to relieve that stress is give in to it and just say, yep, I'm fake, bye. But in her private life, to her close friends, she admitted through letters up until days before her death that her multiple personalities was real. So I really don't want to hear people saying Sybil was fake anymore. It was a conspiracy by doctors to disprove it because doctors did not want to believe this disorder existed. I suggest you read After Sybil. Go look at those letters. See what you think someone just having a personal relationship with a friend says, with no financial gain. Nobody saw these letters until way after her death. So I just wanted to lay that myth to rest that Sybil was a fraud. She was not. She had doctors conspiring against her because they want to prove this disorder is fake. And let me just tell you, it is not. And a lot of doctors now know the disorder is not fake. They doubt how many people claim to have it, but I do too. I certainly don't think as many people on TikTok and YouTube who claim to have DID actually have the real disorder, because it's not a disorder of fun and games. It's protection. It is for life-threatening circumstances. It's to cover and hold trauma so that a person can function in their daily life. And it can be a very damaging disorder. For me, it's very difficult to live my life on a daily basis because I have a lot of alters in conflict at all times. They want to do different things. They don't like me, some of them. And some of them straight up hate me or hate each other. I have alters that scare other alters. But I have to remember, I have to reframe it. Why is an alter being scary to other alters? Because they're probably holding information that those alters have to stay away from. So they act mean to push them away. And so I just wanted to discuss Sybil. I wanted to look at this and just make it clear that she was not a fraud. The movie Sybil, that was loosely based on Shirley Mason. They had artistic license. They used horror music and horror lighting. They wanted to sensationalize this disorder. Does DID look like Sybil? Not often, but at times it can. I'm an overt system, and some would say that at times I appear as flagrantly different as Sybil would. But most of the time, I try very hard to maintain a cohesive personality. Despite the wars going on inside of me, I don't even know if that's healthy for me. I think I'm supposed to let my alters out when they need to come out because they're coming out for a reason. They're coming out to protect me or give me information, and I still resist them. Well, Brandy does. I mean, I'm talking for Brandy. Because like I said, I'm Simon. I'm the researcher of the system, if you don't know me. I'm a male. Okay, I'm in my 30s. Do I really think the body's in its 30s? No, I know the body is female, but I am a male. And so we just had to talk about that. So I don't know if you guys enjoy me. I'm a little bit different from Brandy and James and Flair, and I may not be as entertaining, but I just wanted to basically react to Shirley Mason's Wikipedia. And personally, I think she did have the disorder, and she behaved exactly like somebody with DID would by hiding and denying her disorder when things got stressful. So I think a lot of DID systems would know that and will understand that. And hopefully over time, people will realize this disorder is real. It cannot be created by a doctor. A poor facsimile might, but not actual DID. And that can be very easily ferreted out. So that's all I had to say. I hope everybody has a great day. We're very happy that you watch our videos, and we are very grateful. Thank you for hanging out with me. Bye.